both kind of research or audit is hunt for the root causes. So in these terms, yes, they are alternatives, doing interviews with managers and doing penetration testing. My name is Timur Khrotko. My special relationship with this methodology is that my PhD research was done with narrative interviewing, which is a kind of qualitative interviewing. My PhD research was about finding how executive or top managerial mindset defines the actual practice in a company. So I have a relationship with this kind of approach of problems within the organization, how to capture them through interviewing people. Now, for living, with a couple of my friends, I'm trying to do SecMachine.net, which is a network of application security specialists in Europe. We also do DevDev conference, Builders conference in October. And I am the leader of the Hungary chapter of OWASP, being a Russian citizen, so it's a bit confusing about me. So my speech probably will not be that long, and the agenda is that I introduce you the interview-based research, a short introduction to that, and then I want to explain why I think it's important to use this methodology in application security problems discovery. And also one of my messages is that with this methodology, you cannot find a best practice or like silver bullet or what, don't know what words are used for that. So it's very much dependent on the type of the culture of the company you are doing this research or interviewing in. And finally, I have some preliminary, very preliminary, just my impressions, thoughts about how this audit relates to certain types, preliminary types that I defined. So the main points of my presentation, and this, this link is like a synonym for saying my presentation because it's a short link of my presentation. So the main points are that capturing problems or glitches with application security, or you can say with problems with the secure software development lifecycle, is also possible via interviewing managers. As instead of making like usual dynamic and static methods in order to qualify the application security processes in the company. The other point is that let's see that the participants of the development process, they already know many things and they already aware of many problems with the application security in their company. So we can use them to know that problems. And probably, and this is the way of the qualitative research, that you as an interviewer are the competent person. You can talk with the participants of that life world, of that company, and you can competently discover the problems they probably do not interpret as problems. There are also a point that this method of discovering problems is manager-friendly, which is an important property of this method. It's not on the slide, but it's also important that the instrumentation, the tools of this methodology is mature. So qualitative research or interview-based research has decades of development. So you can use mature instrumentation with this audit technology. And also my suggestion is that today, when we more and more face organizations with already kind of advanced or mature application security, not beginners, this kind of audit or consultancy based on interviews becomes more adequate and efficient. There are companies with established quality assurance practices and culture. That's one of the consumers of this kind of service, interview-based research. And so, since the target of application security audits and consultancy is mainly to find the root causes of the problems, that also, in my opinion, helps saying that this kind of approach is important today. So what is interview-based research? It's simple. It's about talking with managers, making interviews, and also about analyzing the texts. I mentioned that there are instruments or methods how to work with the text, with the result of your interview. I will not go into the details how to do it, because the literature behind the research is huge. So you are talking with managers and with workers, you analyze the text. That's how interview-based research works. This simple. I also want to point out that it's not a technical interview, because in IT consultancy and IT audit, we always use interviews. So it's nothing new about using interviews. What I'm talking about is the quite focused use of this kind of interview in improving application security. It's also important to mention, or due to my approach to the qualitative research, I would say that it's kind of a postmodern approach to analyzing things. And qualitative, contrary to quantitative, means that we are working with no numbers. We are working with text. We are working with meanings. And this is the property of postmodern approach, that we have a constructed word, we have discursive meanings, or we have discursive reality. The reality does not exist, so there is no objective reality. We are living in the world which is defined by our words, It's discussions. We can deconstruct the meanings, and there are social constructions that surrounds us. So all this is property of the qualitative research, how I approach it. And I think it's quite like weird, probably, what I'm saying about this postmodern thing, but it's important in your approach to the application security problems in the organization when it comes to the organizational problems behind the application security. There is a special kind of qualitative interview-based research. That one is my favorite. That's the narrative research. Narrative interview, when you ask people to tell stories. It's important because when they tell stories, they probably will stop interpreting things. They will tell the stories. They will give you the oral account of the reality, of their reality, and this way you become like an indirect participant of their reality. So if you are a competent person in identifying the application security problems, then you can feel yourself in their reality, and probably you can discover some problems. And of course, there are many negative properties of this kind of research because it's subjective, it's free for interpretation, and anyone can blame that your questions already predefine the answers. It's a long disagreement in the scientific community. Is it good or is it bad? However, we are not doing scientific research in this case. We are doing audits, or probably we are doing coaching. So what is important in the scientific research is not important here. It's not important to make interviews. You can listen to my words. So it's not important in this kind of audit to make same panel of questions within different interviews, because the aim is not to compare different cases of different companies. So your interviews has not to be comparable. So you only reuse parts of this mature instrumentation, and this mature instrumentation is, of the narrative or qualitative research is mainly from the organizational development studies. It is important because when we are dealing with glitches of application security in the organizational context or in the processes, in the community of that organization, that's a kind of organizational development. So you can use the organizational development methodologies and instruments in helping improving application security. It's also, I thought it's important to mention that many businesses will never allow you to ask such questions in this interview manner, because interview requires people to be honest. And for example, if you are doing interviews with managers, well, it's property of a good manager to manage the picture he or she delivers to you by talking. So it's an important virtue of a manager to manage how you perceive his words. So you have to be sometimes tricky in making interviews. Just a quick introduction how to do actual interviewing. I would say, most important thing, prepare. So don't do interviews without preparing. And it's also important, it's not on the slide, it's not that everyone is capable of doing interviews. It's kind of, it needs a special person to be able to do good interviewing. So prepare yourself, especially if you are not that comfortable with doing interviews. Like a practical advice, because you are asking for credible account or honesty on the other side, probably NDA is an important thing to have before you approach somebody with the research. Of course, if it's business, it's consultancy, you will have that NDA. But anyway, before you are doing an interview, please send an introduction letter where you describe what will happen during the interview. Also, you can, of course, tell about it in the beginning of the interview. And please agree on the rules of the talk, because it's important when you have 90 minutes to talk with the person. You have to establish the rules, the choreography, and the rules of your talk. It will be more comfortable for the other person. And since you want so you expect the other person being more or less open with you, then probably in the beginning of your interview, you can show your own openness. So you can tell your own story. I used it in a couple of interviews in the recent months, and it worked. So for example, if you start questioning a person like, what would be your strategy in selling application security to your CEO? I, in my case, started my interviews with telling my case of such a question, because there was a failure in my professional life when a CISO asked me to advise him how to sell security to his CEO. It was many years ago, so my failure just taught me to deal with the problem. So I'm just advising you to maintain this atmosphere of openness, and probably it needs some tricks to deal with it. Well, I will not go into questions what you can ask. You can access this presentation on the link, and I don't know, I would be happy to discuss with you in other forums what kind of questions are appropriate. So, and don't forget that the interview is not only the interview. You have to analyze the interview, and at the end, as it is a service, you probably deliver a report of doing this work. So why to use interviews in application security field? The main point is that many of the application security glitches in the production, and let's define, I'm talking about software production and the application security glitches within that production. However, what my statements also apply to the situation when software is delivered by the third party. both cases has organizational problems of how the processes are defined or organized, who has responsibilities, who has schizophrenic situations of deciding between delivery time, efforts applicable to delivering a feature, and the efforts that can be burned on security. These are choices, and people do these choices in the organization. So an organizational choreography of dealing with these conflicts, because organization is about the conflicts of the interests and managing in the processes these conflicting interests. There is a conflict between the security and, for example, delivery time, and security and the budget, and things like that. Who represents these interests in an organizational process? It's important to have a choreography and have a setup how these things are dealt with. So with an interview-based research, you can go after these problems, speaking with managers. They can tell you how it happens, and you as a competent person can tell them what you think about it, like a simple situation. So you are hunting for root causes. As contrary to penetration test, when you control the quality of the product. And very so you can say that from the results of penetration test, you can tell what problems they have in the production process. It's possible. So indirectly, you can advise a company based on the impression about the product quality and security problems with the product. But in case of interview-based research, you go directly to the root causes. That's why I say that it's important to use this method. And again, the participants, those who work at that organization, they most of the time are aware of the problems. They just don't deal with them because that's the way organizations work. We bash the problems, but we don't work with them, or probably it needs a joint talk to change things. And consultancy, so you need a consultant, you need an outsider to talk about your, the word, I mean, your is the organization which does software production. So organization doing software production needs an outsider to talk with about the organizational problems and the problems with the processes, because they are living in the box. And you are an outsider. You have a fresh eye, probably. And you have, like, you are enthusiastic about speaking of the problems that they are probably want just to forget. And also you can have a competent interpretation, like an outsider and like a competent person. Most of the time, this kind of approach is applicable when a change is needed. So consultancy is needed at the process of change. So you come, you capture the problems, you observe the situation, you discuss things with the participants, because interviewing is also a discussion. And probably the discussion itself makes them aware of the problems they were not aware of before. So you find solutions. So So the outcome of an interview can be huge if the setting, the organizational setting, and your acceptance at that organization is good. A couple of words of interview versus, so VAPT, like vulnerability assessment and penetration testing. So in case of the penetration testing, the findings, the report is, for example, absolutely gibberish for the management. And that is a huge problem with application security, that security person delivers a report. That report is hardly understandable for a couple of people on the other side, on the receiving side. And probably it's still the case that many application security reports, I mean technical reports, are not understandable for the developers to work with them, to work with that report, to work with that findings. And many times the auditor or tester, the security tester himself, does not do a good job in making his finding accessible for the developers. And many times security testers don't know how to do development. So they cannot, they are unable, they are important in helping development process. But what I can, 10 minutes, what I can say that you can use interview-based consultancy or interview-based reporting in combination with penetration testing. So it can be a combo. Make a technical audit and make an audit in the organizational process, because it's all about the same thing. I mean, if we are hunting for the root causes, and management is interested in the root causes, management is not interested in SQL injections. So when you are talking with the managers in an interview, you are using that kind of talk they understand. So even the process, I mean the interview, is meaningful for the management. For the management, it's meaningful, the objective or the target, or the target and the aim of your research. It's more understandable for the management than penetration testing. And the reports based on or about the organizational problems, they are also accessible for the management, like in terms of understanding. So that's why I'm saying that it's a management-friendly kind of approach. I would say that from interviewing, from making an audit, you can try upsell for a consultancy. So it's your opportunity to make a better business, like for benefit of your client. And what I'm saying that using in interview-based research is also appropriate today, because many organizations become mature in terms of application security processes, secure development life cycles, or quality assurance as a whole. So here, when they want to improve themselves, so to improve or to re-engineer the secure development process, that kind of approach, that kind of method can be efficient, like interviewing about how they do the processes. And of course, revision of decision-making is important, because application security problems are oftentimes hidden in the decision-making process. Just shortly and preliminary, what I'm saying that there is no standard approach for doing interviews in application security. I would say it's very dependent on the type of the culture of the organization you are working with. So just like ideas. So requirement-driven culture, champion-sustained culture, engineered regulations culture, and collective engagement and quality assurance, like another kind of culture. That's not the order of betterness, but just types. And of course, the other dimension I would suggest is the maturity of application security and the organization. So requirements-driven culture, I think that this is the normal case of software development. Developers deliver what they are asked to deliver in the requirements. That's the normal way. That's the lazy way, but that's how it's done in the practical life. So it's nothing bad, despite the picture, with this case, I would say. And this is the mass market. So with the interview-based consultancy, you probably help this organization to better their processes. You can. And I would say in case of many advanced, that's my suggestion, I don't know. There's no research behind it, but I suggest that this is the mean and lean approach to this, to have champions, security champions in the development process. So these champions sustain the application security in the organization. So in my observation is that this is an existing case of implementing application security in the organization. Not a bad case, but like a cheap case of doing it. For example, when you are doing interviews with these champions, it's harder because they have an opinion. But it's important because they promote security in the organization. They are the key figures of the organizational application security management. Speaking about big companies, regulatory participants of, it's only 5 minutes left, so you can. I will wrap up and then I will happily answer the questions. So this is probably about the companies living in a regulated world. They need to be compliant, and in order to be compliant, a large organization develops a large web of practices and policies and decision-making processes, responsibilities. So it's a huge net of institution. And in this context, application security works. When to escalate problems? Well, let's be positive. Well, I have my positive experience with that kind of companies as well. Let's try to be positive. So compliance-driven is not a bad case. For me, the most interesting case is when we have the development unit. The development unit is inherently wanting to deliver quality. So they are quality-minded teams. There are such teams of developers that are quality-minded. And I would say that's a very interesting case because you cannot buy that kind of culture for money. You can buy consultancy to change your application security processes from one day to another, but there is no money, or there's this huge money and long time that allows software development workshop have these kind of teams that for whom the quality is important. And application or security, in my opinion, is a sub-case of quality. So just like a preliminary idea that in case of requirements-driven culture, we most of the time face a very basic maturity of the application security. So maturity is the application security maturity. But this is the mass market. This is the normal case. It's important to deal with that quadrant. The advanced case of requirements-driven company is what we call security-aware production. So they are already aware and they care about security. What I was talking that champion sustained case, in my opinion, many software houses implement that kind of approach, and that's in an advanced case. Engineered regulations like compliance-driven cases, banks are mature in this, and other subjects of compliance, because security compliance like spreads on other industries today. And for me, the most exciting case is the case of the collective engagement in quality assurance, and I think that we still can help that cases very well, because they can have good security quality without implementing security development process measures as well. What is the best case of mature and engaged intersection? I don't know, but that one is the most exciting case in my opinion. So this is the end of my presentation. It's a miracle that I did it in time. It's unusual. Yeah, so I'm open to discuss it here, outside, or you can access me in this identifiers of me. Yes, please. Well, I cannot repeat your question because it's too long. I would say, so the last question was what to do with the external providers or developers, because they can say that everything is good about their products. I would say that so for doing that kind of service, like interview-based consultancy, you first have to have interest on the other side. So without the acceptance of importance of your service or your position of the the method you are doing it, it's very hard because it's much more intimate than making just checklists. So in case of the external providers, well, I cannot provide. I can only say if they don't need more transparency on how they can improve their secure development lifecycle or whatever application security improvement, then the time did not come to talk with them. That would be my answer to the question, and probably the question was embedded in my answer. And your first question was about how to deal with already established organization where the managers are good at filling in questionnaires and also show that everything is okay with application security, and how you can help it using the kind of method I'm talking about. I would say that you need, because it's organizational development in my approach, and organizational development cannot be done without like blessing from the top management, and it cannot be done without you or the representative of this kind of change or improvement being at the decision tables or part of the decision making. So it's very hard to come from like under the decision making scene and to try to improve the organizational processes. So I think that you have to make many steps back and to try to engage your high management in doing that, if there is a need for that. Certainly do not ask questions when you know that you will have stupid answers to that. So don't waste your time. And the other thing is that you can find out tricky questions, like when you do not cover up the point of, or you make no hint on what is the point of your question. So you can think about tricky questions that indirectly goes after the subject you are interested in. And in this case, you can trick the person to talk about situations that are interested to you, and probably managers lose their awareness what they want to distort in talking about their reality. Okay. Thank you for having me.